Good morning, good afternoon, or good night, and welcome to Command Power, the show in which we discuss all things Magic the Gathering with a focus on Commander. And today we have another episode in our Spoiler Spotlight series in which I talk about, well, spoilers and tell you what my thoughts are on them. But before that, just a quick reminder to click subscribe if you enjoy my videos. We're well on our way to 1 million subscribers and your support means everything to me. And today we're going to be talking about Trouble in Pairs. For 2 colorless and 2 white, it's an enchantment that says if an opponent would begin an extra turn, that player skips that turn instead. And whenever an opponent attacks you with 2 or more creatures, draws their second card each turn, or casts their second spell each turn, you draw a card. So this is actually doing a ton of different stuff for 4 mana, and I think this could potentially become a white staple in the future. This seems very, very strong, and is yet another card in the list of recent cards that allow white to draw cards with relative ease. For the people saying that white is the weakest color in Commander, it definitely isn't these days. So let's have a quick look at why this is so good. To start off with, it's got that first clause, which is the least important part of the card, but in certain metas it can be very strong. People do try to take infinite turns, sometimes as part of a combo, and this stops that right in their tracks, so obviously they're not going to go for it while this is out, so usually all it's going to act as is a bit of a delay until they find removal for this and then can combo off. That being said, even though it is niche, sometimes a delay is all you need and it can really put a damper in certain strategies. But the real meat of the card, of course, is the other ability, and this is very strong because it's got 3 different triggers, most of which are going to trigger very often in a game of Commander. One of them involves you being attacked, and let's start with that one because it's a bit different from the other 2. This one is a very interesting one because it's going to stop people from attacking you a little bit, I feel. All things equal, if somebody has to choose between attacking you and attacking somebody else, they'll probably go with the other player because they don't want to give you that card. It also means that you sometimes might be taking attacks from 2 creatures, but because of this you'd only take an attack from 1. So it's difficult to quantify exactly how much this is doing, but it's going to prevent some damage and some attacks towards you and occasionally draw you a card. That seems pretty good already. But of course there's 2 more triggers. The second one is whenever an opponent draws their second card each turn, you're going to draw a card. Now that one's actually a lot harder to control for opponents, and it's going to come up much more often because of course EDH thrives on card draw. Lots of decks are running tons of it, and you're always drawing 1 card at least from your turn. So as long as an opponent draws another card during their turn, you're going to get to draw a card too. That's a lot of opportunities for that to trigger in just one go around the table. Not to mention that on certain occasions your opponents can trigger it during other people's turn as well by casting an instant speed spell or something like that. There's a lot of ways to accrue cards with this, and it seems very nice as a way to get some extra cards in. It's a little bit like Fairy Mastermind in that regard, but of course it doesn't really have the setup that that other card does, and it's not as cheap. So let's look at the third option very quickly. That one is if somebody casts their second spell each turn, you draw a card. And this is very similar to Ledger Shredder, a card that was massively underrated when it first came out and then became really powerful in lots of different formats, and it's still a very good card. And that one didn't even let you keep the card, you just got to connive, although conniving could sometimes be better because you get to fuel your graveyard and make the Ledger Shredder bigger. Getting to keep the card is obviously very good as well. And the thing is, in Commander, if you're playing in any meta that is even slightly more competitive, then people are going to be double spelling all the time. It happens very naturally in games. People tend to run lower mana curves because they actively want to play multiple spells per turn, and in that kind of situation this becomes really good because you can draw a card on each of your opponent's turns with this, potentially more if there's a lot of instant speed interaction going on. So it just means that there's going to be a lot of different triggers going on. I also really like this card because again it's one of those cards that keeps everybody involved in the game. It's what I was talking about in my video about philosophy in Commander. This card is very interactive. Your opponents are going to have to make decisions about drawing cards and casting spells and attacking, and you're also going to have to be involved by paying attention to all those things that they're doing to make sure you don't miss any triggers and get all of those sweet cards off of this. So when you staple all of that onto a little bit of extra turn hate, I think this card covers a lot of bases and is honestly very strong. I'd be surprised if this doesn't see a lot of play in the format, even at 4 mana, which is a little bit expensive to be fair, but it's a great source of card advantage in white, and you don't need to follow it up with anything. The turn you drop it, you're very likely to draw a card if someone does any of these things, so it should very quickly pay for itself in terms of card advantage. I'm very high on this card, and I think it's definitely worth picking up. So there you have it. Those have been my thoughts on this new spoiler. What do you think about this card? Please let me know in the comment section below. I read all comments and respond to all of them too. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click like or subscribe. It really helps the channel. And until next time, take care.